just letting some final people in. We will keep this meeting to an hour, especially for those of you on the East Coast. We know the weekend is creeping nearer and nearer by the second. I wanted to say a few words to start, namely, what a wonderful change from the previous webinar that we sat through with NADA and the FTC. As disappointing as that previous webinar was, I think this was equally as enlightening and certainly more than made up for the time spent a week and a half ago. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Tyler Requette with Mosaic Compliance Services, President and COO. I'll be hosting and moderating this webinar today. Joining me, I have Gil Van Over, the President of Mosaic Audit Services, and recent F&I Hall of Fame inductee this past weekend at Agent Summit. So just another congratulations to Gil. Had to give you that plug there.
Thank you.
I also have the pleasure of having Jim Ganther, CEO and founder of Mosaic Compliance Services and longtime dealership compliance attorney. Rather than give you all my thoughts, I'll go ahead and immediately turn it over to our esteemed experts for their thoughts. But to tee it up, because I did take really good notes, and just to recap Paul's summary at the very end, we got confirmation that advertising is very broad and includes social media, includes oral advertisements, which I think is maybe something that we can unpack a little bit. I think the biggest thing that came out of there is confirmation that doc fee needs to be included in the advertised price, not just in that category 1 of states that have no opinion on the doc fee, category 2 of states that that allow you to permit use of the doc fee, but as Paul said, in all 50 states, even the 3 that require you to list the doc fee outside of the advertised price. Paul cited the federal authority over the state authority, and that was backed up by the FTC. The recommendation was that if you are in one of those 3 states, to follow the federal laws, and if there are issues with the states, take it up with the FTC. MSRP can be in the advertisement, but needs to not conflict with the total price, the most prominent price, the all-in price that goes to every consumer. Leasing, same general concepts apply. Rebates, dealer financing discounts, all of those things can be included in the advertisement, but need to not disrupt the total price, the advertised price that's available to all consumers. Of course, optional products may be purchased that take the total transaction price over the advertised price, but those products need to be disclosed. They need to be, I believe the exact quote from the FTC was, you need to dot your I's and cross your T's and make sure it is very apparent to the customer that those are optional add-on products. With that, I'll conclude my summary and hand it over because I see Jim's camera is finally on.
No, it's not mine. I am up the hall in someone else's office.
Gil, since you were prompt and on time, why don't you lead us off with some thoughts that you had on that webinar?
Well, I too was pleased that they came with more answers this time than questions. There were a couple of things that he still left vague, specifically in leasing, and the disclosure on the doc fee, because when you lease a vehicle, the doc fee can be either the agreed upon price or the amount due at signing, and he seemed to only give one way to go with that, and I don't think that's necessarily what he wanted to say, but we can get that hopefully cleared up with the FAQs.
Yeah, and I think the principle covers that. I had my bingo card, literally. It did not hit everything I wanted to have addressed. But I also think that the general principles we heard cover almost everything. And where everything that goes into amount due at, total amount due at signing, in the lease environment, the overarching principle is it clear and conspicuous? And are you sticking it in late in the game? And if you don't stick it in late in the game, if it's clear, conspicuous, and the dealer or the customer knows what has to be paid from the most prominent figure in the ad, I think you're going to be okay. And since I missed the first 5 minutes, sorry, y'all. I'm probably repeating my two colleagues, including Gil Van Over, F&I Hall of Fame member. I don't know if Tyler introduced you as such, but that was a great honor this week, and congratulations.
Thank you.
But meanwhile, back at what we just heard. 11 days ago, we had an FTC functionary, and I'm not trying to be condescending, but we had someone who clearly wasn't in the thin air of the FTC. And she began her remarks by saying, I cannot speak for the FTC. And then she said, I will not answer any questions. So the webinar that we had on the 6th of April was a massive disappointment. This was exactly the polar opposite. Not only did we get Chris Mufferidge, who signed the warning letters last month, that to me was as senior as we're going to get. But without any notice, we didn't see this coming. The chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, Andrew Ferguson, personally appeared on this webinar. To me, that is the biggest imprimatur, the gold seal of approval that you could ever get. And I did not hear any qualifications from either Chairman Ferguson or Chris Mufferidge. This was as straight from the mouth of the bull as we're ever going to get. You know, I've been going to NADA and NIADA and RVDA events for a really long time. I have never gotten straighter answers than we all got today. May not have been as many answers as we wanted or that time would permit, but we also got the promise that there will be an FAQ document coming, and I'm hoping very soon. I'm immensely impressed and pleased with the attitude that the Federal Trade Commission displayed today. It was, to me, it was unprecedented. So, yay.
Absolutely. Let me make one comment. Please, I see a couple of you have already started dropping questions in the chat. Please continue to do so. We will get to all of those. And specifically, Stephen, your question that just came through, hoping that NADA addresses the in-transit inventory issue. Yeah, they did mention a couple of days, and that can be short for a lot of dealers. I would say one of my takeaways from this webinar is that NADA is listening to its members and to the questions that we're bringing to them. And apparently the FTC is now listening to NADA and willing to engage. I think that was one of the major takeaways. So I know we at Mosaic will be in contact with NADA, funneling a lot of these questions that are still a little unclear to them, and in hopes that they make it into this first FAQ or maybe subsequent FAQs. But I would also recommend and encourage you all to do the same and not to hesitate to reach out to NADA, because I think we heard it multiple times on that call. They referenced the dock fee question, the state versus federal preemption issue. They referenced those multiple times about the volume of requests they got on those issues. So let's continue the volume of requests on these issues that are unclear so that we can add more clarity for dealers and their partners.
Let me throw a little bit more light on Steve's question. What reality is and what Chris Mufferidge thinks reality is. They may not, that Venn diagram may not be a full circle. But again, the principle I heard a couple of times is, for example, who is responsible for the content? What is reality? And it is true. You're not going to get a vehicle from Detroit in 1 or 2 days. But if you know, if it's truly in transit, and I would advertise best case estimate, when do we believe delivery will be made? And if you advertise it clearly as in transit, expected May 1st, and you're off by a couple of days because of a sudden snowstorm, that's not what's going to get you in trouble. If, however, you're advertising a phantom vehicle, or a vehicle that is in fact in transit, but you don't make it clear that it is in transit, if you create the impression it's on the showroom floor, that will get you in trouble. One other thing that we heard was how quickly should you update your inventory on your website? And clearly, quicker is better. I heard nothing that made me doubt that we're updating every night at midnight, that would not be adequate. But I know, Gil, you gave me an example recently of what was unacceptable. What was that gap?
That one, the vehicle that was being advertised, they had 6 in inventory. They went rather quickly, and 15 days after the last vehicle was sold, it was still being advertised on the website.
I think that would be a problem.
That would be a problem.
Other things that, other points that were made that I don't want to be glossed over in this webinar is that the advertising requirements contained in Regulation Z and Regulation M, covering financing and leasing respectively, those are still in play. And just because we're focusing on total advertised price, most prominent price in an advertisement, that is a big issue. Don't ignore trigger terms, finance terms, lease term disclosures that are mandated by Regulation Z and Regulation M. They remain key.
Jim, the one issue that I see commonly that I didn't hear him address today is the issue of rollover disclosures, where you have to click on a link to get the disclosure.
That is a good catch, and one that I hope we will see addressed in the FAQ document. My guess is that anything that requires you to roll over, click, call for price, that just ain't going to cut it. So I don't hold a high level of optimism for rollover pricing or any additional steps. Clear and conspicuous means you should be able to see it right here on the screen without any further interaction. So I'm hoping we get better clarification, but that's my guess. And if I were advising a dealer, I'm going to want to be conservative. Tyler, before we get into any other questions that are popping up, I did want to address something that flowed from the April 6th webinar with Helen Clark representing the FTC. Right after she said, I cannot represent the FTC, she actually started to represent the FTC because she highlighted a couple of enforcement actions that were current. And I downloaded them, scanned them, but in the 11 days since, I've had the opportunity to read them very carefully. And those were the Lindsay Auto Group case coming out of Maryland and the Manchester City Nissan that came out of Connecticut. The Lindsay Group settled for $78.1 million. The Manchester City Nissan case, as of today, it's still going to trial. And the cases are a little bit different. The Lindsay case really, really, really lived in the middle of the sins that are articulated in the warning letter. But, and they were significant and frequent. The Maryland Maryland AG, their little FTC Act allowed them to assess fines of $10,000 per violation. And we also know from reading the complaint that over 88% of all of their customers paid more than the advertised price. So if you take a dealer group that had 3 locations and had been doing these sins for the statute of limitations, multiply by 0.88, multiply by 10,000, it's really easy to get to the $75 million figure that they were hit for refunds. Then there's the $3.1 million that was the fine on top of that, and that was going to the Maryland Attorney General's office. I think the FTC is suggesting that if state attorneys general wish to cooperate with them, it could be very, very lucrative. This could become a very popular way to make up for budget shortfalls. But going then to the Manchester City Nissan case, this one had all of the advertising sins that the Lindsay Auto case exhibited, but also there was prevalent examples of actual payment packing. And so that elevated this particular case to the point where they're willing to take it to trial. Whoever is representing them knows a whole lot more than I do, but if these allegations can be proved, they might want to keep that settlement door open. And here's why. Both cases had the FTC and a state attorney general, one in Connecticut, one in Maryland, going after both the corporate defendants and individual defendants. In the Lindsay case, they went after the dealer principal, the chief operating officer, and a couple of general managers. In the Manchester City Nissan case, they went after dealer principal, chief operating officer, general manager, finance F&I manager, and two sales managers. In other words, they were going after live humans. And when you settle a case, that is a negotiated and agreed to settlement. And you have space to negotiate who's going to be responsible for the $75 million of refunds and who's going to be responsible for the $3.1 million fine. And you can take that burden in whole or in part off the checking accounts of the F&I managers, of the sales managers. But when you go to trial, it's the judge that's going to decide who's paying what. And it is entirely possible that if the case were to find Manchester City Nissan liable and the individuals liable, those individuals may personally be on the hook for millions of dollars. And to support that reality, remember the case of Leader Automotive, where the Canadian dealer, the dealer corporate defendant, settled for $20 million. And the American individual, James Duvas, is currently going to court, going to trial over a potential liability of $216 million. Taken together, the FTC is telling the dealer community they're very, very serious about this, and they're even willing to go after individual employees of the dealerships for really, really big numbers.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, I think we hit on that a little bit at the end of the last presentation. I'm going to share my screen and show the questions that we have coming up, just so everybody can see them and know what we're talking about. So to start out, search result pages include all rebates. Vehicle description pages have the fine print. Guessing we need to change the search result pages. Would that be just to MSRP? Seems to me like not MSRP, needs to be total price.
Well,
yeah, I think he was very clear on that it had to be the most prominent figure had to be total price. You could still disclose MSRP, but you have to have the MSRP plus dock fees and any other fees that are not required.
But you can advertise a vehicle for MSRP.
Right.
You know, and if MSRP is the most prominent number, that's the one you got to be willing to sell the vehicle for.
That would mean no dock fee.
Or the dock fee, I happen to think dock fee's dead. If you can't add a dock fee after the fact, why do you have it at all? If you wanted to preserve that margin, you're just going to build it into dealer pack at the front end. And if your invoice price and all of your pack is MSRP or less, I don't see a problem with them advertising MSRP as long as it includes everything.
I think that was pretty clear. Okay, moving on. Here we go. If the dealer advertised price does not include the dock fee, but there is a disclosure for the customer to click on it that states it does not include a doc fee of $5.99, is that considered compliant? Let's see.
No,
Yeah, I
no,
think that's
Gil,
the
do
same
you
question.
agree?
I agree.
Yeah. No, I mean, they couldn't be more clear. If it's not in the advertised price, you can't charge it.
That's right. And you know, just going back to those takeaways for a moment, every question about what can be included, it comes back to this same concept, right? If you want to advertise a rebate, that is fine. You can have a $50,000 Jeep Grand Cherokee total price. Right underneath of that, you can have a $1,000 military discount for a total price of $49,000 for the military. But it cannot be more prominent than that all-in advertised price that is available to every consumer. Same thing
Have that
goes
off
for
to the side, smaller font, make it clear it's veterans only, but it has to be clear it's only for veterans and not for first-time buyers, repeat buyers, first responders, and veterans all at the same time. And that was one of the allegations that we had in those cases that were highlighted last time.
Okay, moving on to our next question. When advertising a lease payment on radio, many lease programs have incentives not available for all, i.e. you may have a rebate for all, but the majority of the rebates on a lease are lease loyalty, manufacturer loyalty. So how do we handle this payment all qualify for, and another payment in the radio ad that would include the lease loyalty and manufacturer loyalty?
On the radio ad, if you do disclose both payments, then fully disclose it, not as if you're the barker at the carny and going so fast that nobody can understand you, but slowly saying, you know, lease payments $423. We do have some manufacturer loyalty rebates that will bring that payment down to 412 or whatever the number is, if you qualify. I think that's kind of the word tracks you'd want to use.
I agree. We keep coming back to the lodestar of, is it clear, is it conspicuous, and can anybody get that price? So if you could get a loyalty rebate, but the majority aren't going to qualify for it, I wouldn't advertise that unless I first advertise the general price. And it was like the rebates in a print ad or on your website. Most prominent has to be what everybody qualifies for. If there are exceptions, less prominent and not the one you lead with.
I think probably worth noting too that the FTC did quote the reasonable consumer standard. And so I think we should keep that in mind when building any of these ads, right? You think about what a reasonable consumer is going to believe when they hear that ad and how they are going to respond to it. Are they showing up to the show floor to buy a vehicle under the assumption that they heard online or on the radio that that vehicle cost $38,000, only to find out that that was spoken at a very high speed, as Gil mentioned, and it's actually $43,000. Reasonable consumer. I want to put the next question up here for you guys. Did they specifically address pre-installed products, auto security, GPS, that are not required for purchase and can and will be disabled or removed if not purchased? Must these products be included in the selling price? Jim?
Devil's in the details. No, they did not specifically address pre-installs. I mean, that was one of the items. Yeah, preloads was on my bingo card and I did not exit out. But the principle being, if you are going to charge for it, it must be in the advertised price. If you're willing to opt it out, now it becomes fact specific and you're probably playing defense. I think that if it's in and you can negotiate it out, they're going to have a problem with that. If it's out and can be negotiated in, no problem with it. So if preloads are in there and you got to negotiate them out, I think that's going to be an issue. It might not be the answer you want, but there it is.
And I just dropped, I mean, the only thing we got about products is the quotes that I just put on the screen here. And, you know, it was the general question from Paul that if someone wants to purchase additional services and then they pay more than the advertised price, is that okay? And to reiterate, the FTC response was that it is important to ensure that you are dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and the consumer understands that the optional add-ons are not required. So no, we didn't get into preloads, and that is the only place that we got into product. Again, reasonable consumer, most prominent price.
Let's put it this way. If your first pencil, Gil, back me up or not, but if your first pencil includes those products, and that first pencil is based on a price that is higher than advertised, I think in that point you're dead.
I would agree with that. I would also highly recommend that if you're going to add products on the second, third, fourth, 12th pencil, that you use that keyword optional in front of it.
Not exactly. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I would say there's going to be an awful lot of finesse required on this. But when you're dealing with an optional product that has a physical component that has actually been installed on the vehicle, the reasonable consumer is going to assume that is not optional. It's already installed, even if the majority of its value can be deactivated. But boy, that's that is going to attract attention.
Not a question here, but I assume that Tony is not the only person that is hearing this from dealers, and I will turn it over to the two esteemed colleagues of mine on this call, but I will say that it was reiterated multiple times on that webinar that the FTC is encouraging dealers to communicate with them directly or through NADA if they see competitors in the marketplace that are not playing on a fair playing field.
We've seen a letter from at least one state association alluding to that they're going to manage their own market and enforce it in their market. And if they see somebody not playing the same game, they intend to turn them over.
Back to our questions.
Before you go forward with that, I think, Tony, what we all might hear from some dealers is, well, listen, the FTC said that they did 100% examination and they only sent letters to 97 dealer groups. So therefore, if I didn't get the letter, they already looked at mine and I'm okay, so I'm not going to change.
No, that's not what I heard.
No, he said, he didn't say that. I'm inferring that that's why people may think, because he said they looked at every dealer's website.
No, they looked at every one of the 97.
No. They looked at every dealer's website is what I thought I heard him say.
There was some confusion on that point, and I think that people will hear it either way that you two are discussing, however they want to hear it. But if I was a dealer, again, I would take the safe bet and assume that the FTC didn't look at 16,000 new car dealers and 40-some thousand independent dealers, but did look at each one of the dealers that they sent a letter to.
Because he said they spent a lot of time.
No.
Oh, well.
No, I mean, we know from the running ads through our AI tool. None of the dealers who shall remain anonymous, but none of the many dealer websites that we have scoured in the last 2 to 3 weeks were clean. Every single one of them that we looked at had problems identified in those letters, and they did not get letters. I think they said none of the 97 groups was a blind letter. They looked at every one of the 97 groups. That I don't think I don't want anybody to have false hope there.
I don't either.
Yeah, and Teddy, thanks for your comment. I'm glad you brought that up. It was a comment we actually wanted to make and discussed over the week at Agent Summit. With the power of AI, the FTC could have looked at every dealer website. And the point we wanted to make was we're all being immersed in AI tools right now, from vendors, from partners, building them ourselves. And the speed of building these tools has just shrunk dramatically over the last 1.5 years, 2 years. It is very foolish to assume that the government is not also using tools like this. So their reach, their resource has increased just like all of ours has with the advent of AI. So thank you, Teddy, for that comment. Let's jump to our next question because I think it's a good one. We haven't talked any about social media yet. If our sales team lists prices on social media, we assume total price is correct to post. Do they have to disclose the doc fee is included in the price somehow? This may be a state of Indiana question for us. So this gets into a couple of different things. Jim, go ahead and take it in whatever direction you'd like to start. We'll unpack each part of this though.
My thought is, if you're putting any charge, call it a doc fee, call it a dealer fee, call it a destination charge, don't care. Once you put one, if you're going to charge it, it has to be in the advertised price. And if it's in the advertised price, why would the term doc fee ever appear anywhere? I mean, so you can't, if you're going to charge a doc fee, it has to be in the ad, and you could say, this includes our doc fee. I just don't know why you would. I would say this is our guaranteed out the door price. Do you say this also includes our dealer pack? Maybe, Gil, help me out. Maybe I'm not actually understanding the question, but I just don't think doc fee is going to exist as a species anymore.
Especially given the different fees in the different states and the different requirements. Florida, it's not regulated at all. California, it is. Texas, it's highly recommended at a number. Carolinas have a consistent number, so it depends on where you're at. But if you're going to continue to have the doc fee in your sale price and you're quoting it at MSRP on your advertising, that's what you sell it for. You got the gross through the doc fee, or you got the gross through selling it at MSRP.
Yeah, the follow-up comment here was state of Indiana requires it's labeled clearly and conspicuously disclosed for dealer advertising. The non-exist makes sense. We will look at that. Comply auto flagging it when not present.
Well, let's go back though to what Paul Mitri said. He said there are 4 categories, and Chris Muffridge said, well, there's really only 2. The first 3 categories, there's no ambiguity. You have to include doc fee in the advertised price. He said there's a category of 1 state that is ambiguous, and if you get pushback, call me. So I think this question was pretty squarely answered within the corners of the webinar itself, but you guys watched it at the same time I was. Was I mishearing?
Yeah, Jim,
No,
I think the questions may be more around a disclosure requirement.
Correct. I think you're right.
Because we're also seeing, where it's disclosed on buyer's orders, and that's true. And in Florida, you have to have specific language to disclose a pre-contract services fee, and in other places called a dealer fee, other places called doc fee, and there's regulations within the state on how to disclose it. So. Right.
But if you
it boils down to, if you have it in your if you have it in the price and it doesn't exceed MSRP, would you even need to disclose a doc fee?
No, I think that disclosing it there would be confusing and superfluous. I mean, the doc fee exists so that you can preserve some front-end gross at the end of the deal. I mean, Gil, is that a fair statement?
Fair statement.
Fair statement. And if you can't add anything other than taxes and tag after you've negotiated the price, why are you going to have it on your paperwork at all? And if it's already included in the advertised price, which is mandatory, and then you separately list it, it would have to say included in advertised price, or if you had it stated, then you'd have to zero it out. It just doesn't make any sense. That's why I'm saying I believe doc fee is dead.
Many of these state-specific questions, your state dealer association is all over these things too. I'm sure that they can provide you with some guidance that is specific to your state.
And just to to ask you guys as the experts, if the concern is that we want to make sure that we stay as compliant with federal and state requirements as well. We're talking about a state like Indiana here that requires disclosure of the dock fee. Jim, let's pretend that, you're not correct in this and the dock fee doesn't go away, and instead we get to an equilibrium where everybody charges dock fee and discloses it. Could I have a advertised price of $50,000 total price? Underneath of that, a dock fee of $800 disclosed right there, and be in compliance with both Indiana and the federal regulation.
I do not believe that would work, because you are adding to the most prominent price.
No. Most prominent price is $50,000. MSRP is $49,200 and dock fee of $800.
I literally, not trying to be rough on you here, Tyler, I literally don't know what you're saying. And what I mean is this: you've got a big price, and then you've got MSRP. Forget MSRP for this example. You got a big price and you've got dock fee. Is the dock fee in the big price?
Yes.
Well, then why would you have dock fee below it? If it's already included, why are you highlighting dock fee? I'm just literally, okay, type it out. This is helpful.
Sure. I mean, here you go.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't have a problem with that, except I'm wondering why you would do it. The fee is I mean, the price is the price.
Well, I think the question comes down to if the state is requiring disclosure of the dock fee, and the dealers are deciding not to just eliminate it on day one, but to continue to include it for front end gross.
Well, this might be semantics, but if Indiana, to my knowledge, it's where Gil lives. I live in Florida, but I do not believe Indiana is saying you have to charge a dock fee.
It's a disclosure issue.
And if you're simply, fundamentally, if all you're doing is increasing your dealer pack, I would argue you don't have to disclose anything. Because it's the pack, that we've got decades of practice and habit and muscle memory of calling it dock fee. And I'm saying, if it's got to be in the advertised price, why do you even have that vocabulary anymore?
Well, there's one possibility, Jim, is that consumers go on the web, go on the internet, and they get pricing information many times before they even start chatting with a dealer. So they may know what the MSRP is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they see your ad and they want to know why it's $1,000 more. Well, the way Tyler's laid it out, the way Tyler's laid it out would be one way to walk through that with your consumer.
I think, because I see this as being legally compliant but superfluous,
right?
I think the marketplace is going to settle this one out.
Well, again, though, in those states where the dock fee is the same, regulated, it's less of an issue. Florida, you have them from $0 to $1,200.
I've seen 7,700.
Well, I know.
Yeah, and that
the car cost $1 million though. So.
No, it was a buy here, pay here.
Guys, we do have some chatter continuing on this topic. Yeah, I think the commenters think I'm as crazy as Jim does, which is good.
Go up. That one just disappeared, and I want to make sure. Right above D. Patrick. Scroll up.
I wanted most of this.
No, the one about preemption, and see if I can get.
Yeah, we did have a question.
Yeah.
Here you go from Josh.
Josh.
He also stated that federal law trumps state law, and that's actually incorrect.
No, that is correct. That's preemption. Sorry. If a federal law and a state law cover the same subject matter and they conflict, federal law trumps to the extent of the conflict. That's Hornbook law.
So, okay, so that's pretty clear there. Tony, with a couple of comments about doc fee being being a line on the purchase order in certain states.
I want to.
Any
Not for
comments on that?
long.
I want to. I
Not
want
for
to.
long. And I can
I want to.
guarantee you that is going to be addressed with the DMS providers with their documents. Absolutely 100% guarantee that is under discussion right now in real time.
I want to. I want to. I want
Yeah,
to.
I think it, I know that I've aligned with you mostly on the idea that the doc fee is going to go away, but it opens up the question long term of if, as we see in the comments here, some of the OEMs, a lot of the OEMs require you to list MSRP. So the dealer's got to list the MSRP of the vehicle. Is the dealer allowed any front end gross on the car? What is the market equilibrium going to become? Is it just going to be a race to the bottom and everybody's listing MSRP, or is there going to be, some market allowance by the consumer for the dealer to put a fee for the work that they actually have to do to process that vehicle?
There, that's not the problem that the FTC is trying to fix. Right now,
Well, no, but what we are talking about here is how that money would be disclosed.
I want to. I want to.
As long, honestly, as long as it's in the most prominent number, I don't care what you call it. And frankly, I don't think the customers care what they call it. They care about how big that big number is.
Right.
And if we get to the point, and we're going to get there very quickly,
I want to.
cooperatively or kicking and screaming, but we're going to get there very quickly, that the advertised price is the price I can walk in, pay, and leave, other than tax and tag. And people will be able to meaningfully price comparison shop without having to go from showroom to showroom. How the dealers choose to articulate it, to me, is really not the main point here. As long as you stick to the principles that we heard this afternoon, if you're going to charge it, it has to be in the total price.
I want to.
Full stop. If you want to break it down and itemize what went into that, I could see a universe in which that might be helpful. If you have to defend your price. I have also heard from most dealers, if not every dealer that I've spoken to on this exact question, if you could get MSRP 100% of the time,
I want to.
walk away from doc fee. And I haven't heard a dealer yet, and I haven't asked that many, but I haven't heard a dealer yet say no. And we have obviously dealer personnel and trainers who are participating in this webinar. How would you answer that question? If you knew you could always get MSRP, would you be preserving enough front end gross to make it worth your while?
I want to.
A resounding no is the immediate answer.
Okay, then what are you going to do?
Nobody's here for my crystal ball predictions, but I think we're going to get to some type of market equilibrium in each market where there's an acceptable fee that is charged to the consumer for the vehicle. Yeah, Tony said many cars have a sub $1,000 markup on them. I've got a couple more questions here. I know we only have about 15 minutes left. Jeff asked, and I think we've probably covered this, but a dealer online fee for processing motor vehicle paperwork, does that also have to be displayed in the math box on the website?
It has to be in the price.
It has to be in the price. Doesn't necessarily have to be individually itemized.
Nope.
I want it.
Your backdrop there, Tyler. It matches your shirt.
Hey, we have a great visual design team over at the office. So thank you to them.
I want it.
Jim, Gil, are there any other points that you guys wanted to cover from the webinar? We talked about the warning letters. We talked about advertising 101. We touched on it briefly a second ago, but I would be really careful of the social media. I know everybody, mean, he's incredible. Russ Flips Whips has done awesome things, and I know a lot of dealers are using him or entities like him to try to get their salespeople more engaged on social media to sell vehicles. But you're going to have to really stay on top of that and make sure that the pricing that's being disclosed on personal social media pages is that total all-in price. I'd be really wary of that. I'd certainly make sure that you had a process in place to monitor and approve those posts.
I would like to add that this is not a new rule. This is just an emphasis or an emphasis, depending on which syllable you put the emphasis on, is that the FTC is saying we're going to start looking at it and enforcing it. Gives everybody on the call that has a compliance management system in place already to apply that technique to this issue. So you have to figure out where you are. So you do a risk assessment of your current ads. You write a policy on how they're supposed to be displayed. You provide training on that, and then you have continuous follow-up on the ads to make sure that any time that they're changed, that you go ahead and update the website. I would really focus on the disclosures that the FTC has mentioned. I would focus on making sure that when you sell that vehicle that night, you show it as sold. It goes to the website and pulls that one off your website.
See, a couple of things that I thought were worth hammering on. Chris Muffridge said that price transparency is a priority, not just in the auto industry. And he gave some examples. Short-term lodging, hotels, must you include your resort fee? All fees associated with Airbnb. We've seen prices change, pricing strategies change in the lodging industry because of this. Ticketmaster, how often do you buy a ticket that says $29, you wind up paying $140 because of all their fees? They're coming down really hard on Ticketmaster and similar brokers. Grocery deliveries. I'm old school. I don't get my groceries delivered, but apparently there are a lot of fees involved. And then healthcare. I've also heard automotive repair facilities. The point of all that is they're serious broadly. They're not going to give auto dealers a pass. They're serious as a heart attack in all these other industries where advertising has been an issue. Dealers are not going to get a pass. One other question we got here from Pete. Okay, opinion on pre-installed products on addendums with clear disclosure of products being optional and not required for purchase. Again, the devil's in the details. And if you have an addendum sticker, and Pete, I've given you the article I wrote on it. If you have an addendum sticker, clear and conspicuous, this is optional, optional, optional. You build some value into the bundle that you have on the addendum sticker. I hate product in first pencil, just hate it. I'm not saying that it's expressly illegal, but I'm saying once you do it, you're playing defense. And it becomes a he said, she said. Further to that point, Chris Muffridge said early on, oral representations to the FTC are the same as an ad. So this whole, what did you say, when did you say it, how did you say it, comes into play. So I would like to be able to say you should be always protected by your paperwork. But that's not what Mr. Muffridge said. He said your oral representations matter. And that gets really dicey. So preloads and addendum stickers are different things. Not everything on an addendum sticker has to be preloaded on the vehicle. So that's a distinction that's going to be important. I think if it's physically preloaded, we're going to have this conversation offline, Pete. if it's physically preloaded and shows up on an addendum sticker, there are a lot of hairs that we're going to have to split.
I want it, 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 I want it.
I see Tyler talking, but I cannot hear him.
T-
Tyler, you're muted.
I'm here.
There we go.
Next question is on out-of-state deals. So what about out-of-state deals where we have to use a title agency for the paperwork? The title agency would charge a fee. We wouldn't know if the deal is out of state when we advertise the car.
I want it, 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 I want it,
Hall
I
of
want it.
Famer, what's your opinion?
Well, that would be similar to a shipping fee. It's an expense that is borne outside of what the normal business is. I think the other question was asking about title fee, for example, in Florida, a dealer can mark that up and it's what, $135. Jim, you said that needed to go into the price.
Yep.
But but if I'm in Florida and I have a car going to Tennessee, I have to hire the title agency to do the paperwork for me for that Tennessee deal, whereas I would not have had that fee if the customer were in Florida. So I think that would be an exception that could be explained.
I have no problem with I agree with you. When somebody walks in,
I want it.
you're assuming you're safe to assume it's a resident of your state. And if there's an additional charge because you're from out of state, I have no problem with that being excluded from the advertised price.
I want it.
The next one's more interesting.
Oh, you want this one? Okay.
Hey guys, we saw you just this week.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
I want it. I want it.
So regarding the FTC's March 13th letters, Jim?
Yep.
Yeah. So the expectations for their advertised pricing, if any dealer were to ignore these warnings, even those who weren't warned directly, and continue selling vehicles where the advertised price doesn't reflect the total cost, could they realistically face restitution or fines for every single one of those non-compliant deals if discovered in the future, for example, by next March?
Absolutely. That's kind of the math I got to looking at the Lindsay Auto Group. The FTC can go back to the statute of limitations, and without having checked that out, let's say it's 5 years, they could go back 5 years, do an audit, and assess that fine.
I want it.
Fines that are being assessed in the Manchester City Nissan case that were specifically identified as state fines, $5,000 per violation. The Maryland case was a state level fine, $10,000 per violation. But the FTC on the federal could go up to $53,088 per violation. And it's really going to be on every vehicle that is that
I want it.
If you charge above the advertised price, that's a violation. And yeah, there's software that can figure it out pretty quickly. So everybody's on notice, and it doesn't matter if you got the letter or participated in the webinars or not. There is nothing in the law that requires the Federal Trade Commission or a state attorney general to fire a warning shot across your bow. Effectively, the FTC's fired a warning shot across the bow of the entire industry. And even if you're going to go with standard operating procedure, go la 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 la, unless everyone else in your market is doing it the same way, someone's going to rat you out. I wouldn't take that chance.
I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it.
Agreed.
I want it.
We have another question here on the preloads specific situation. Would it be acceptable if you have a preloaded item listed in the total price, clearly disclosed in the total price? Can that item be negotiated out of the deal by the customer?
Yep. Again, you can sell it for less. You just can't sell it for more. And if you have a preload,
I
it
want it.
should be in the advertised price. And under this fact pattern, it looks like it is. And can you negotiate it out and reduce your price? Absolutely.
I want it. I want it. I want it. I
One more
want it.
scenario. This
I
was
want
from
it.
earlier in the chat. I just hadn't gotten around to it. MSRP 50 grand. Dealer discount 1,000. Doc fee 249. Total price 49,249. Would this be compliant? We're obviously going to
So,
want to rearrange some things and change
no,
some
no,
text sizes.
are we saying is the 49,249 the advertised price?
Sounds like it.
If it's the advertised price, I have no problem with it. You might want to do the math. I mean, you could, but you're not required to. You can just advertise 49,249. If you want to get into how you got to that point,
I want it.
knock yourself out. But if it's included in the math, it has to be in the big prominent price.
I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it. I
There you
want
go.
it. I
Make it
want
the
it.
big price. Make it bold. Underline it. Make it clear. We are down to a couple minutes left. One thing we didn't touch on that I think is worth pointing out is that the FTC went out of their way to say that they did not pick back up the CARS rule when it was defeated by NADA. And they do not want to regulate. They simply want to enforce what's on the books.
Right.
They don't want the industry to force politicians to regulate the industry. So really, we should all be taking what they're saying to heart, implementing these best practices, not just because our fellow competitors are going to rat us out, but because we don't want to increase the regulatory environment to make it any larger than it already is. I think that we should all keep that in mind.
I
Point
want
well
it.
made.
I want it. I want it.
Gil, Jim, do you guys have any final parting thoughts? Oh, we got one more. Would it make any sense not to price used vehicles?
Would it make any sense to not price used vehicles? There are some states that say if you have a picture of an identifiable vehicle, you must have its price. That is not to my knowledge a federal requirement, but there are certain states that require that.
I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it.
Gil, you're
I
the
want it.
old industry dog
I
and
want
Hall
it.
of Fame member. Is pricing more important on used cars or new cars?
I want it. 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 I
Great
want it.
question. I would think it's more on new vehicles. I can be argued out of that position though. The thing that I was trying to recall is, what are you advertising, and are you advertising payment? And then if you're advertising payment, what other requirements are you required to disclose under truth in lending?
Yep, you've got that. And when you're buying a new car, I think price may be more important because they're all under factory warranty. They're a can of corn. They're literally a commodity that when they roll off the factory, they should be identical. But every used car has its own story. Every used car is unique, and thus, you can't price it, literally apple to apple. But what applies to franchise new car dealer ads applies equally to the independents, to the used car market.
I want it. I want it. I want it.
And finally, I'd also like to award him our most active commenter throughout this series of webinars. Thanks, Tony. One more from Tony. Is it plausible that preloads may be a thing of the past? Dealers may not be willing to roll the dice of eating the cost.
Well, it's plausible. And I'm not saying preloads are bad. We don't have to overcomplicate this. It's just if you have preloads, they should be in the advertised price. And that may make the preloads not as attractive. On the other hand, I think used properly, it can factor into your why buy here. I had a friend who just recently retired from a lifetime in retail automotive, including as a, principal and GM. And he never advertised that he had the lowest prices. he always advertised that he had the best price. And his prices were often higher than his competitors in the market. But he trained all his people to make the case for why this was the best price because of what it included. Um, that takes a certain level of intestinal fortitude, but it can be done. We're going to see a lot of changes in how dealers both advertise and present their why buy here. And I think ultimately it's going to be for the best.
I want it.
Thank you, gentlemen. As long as we don't have any parting thoughts, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who attended this webinar. Thank you, Gil and Jim, for speaking on all of these updates from the FTC. We encourage you all to stay engaged and send us any additional questions that you may have. I also dropped in the chat landing page, shameless plug here. If you want a free ad review of your dealer's website, of your website or your dealer partner's websites, we are providing those right now just to give you a baseline of where you are and start allowing for some changes or recommendations. So feel free to use the form that I just included and get a free deliverable for sitting through and listening to us talk for an hour.
Yeah. Hey, one last comment, because I was hoping to hear an answer and I didn't, so that may have been our answer. My question was, on my bingo card, come into a compliance, is there a period of time the Federal Trade Commission is going to give dealers to get their houses in order? And the answer is, I didn't hear that. Like, I would change, if you're going to change, and you probably should change, I would do it soon. What you must do eventually, you should do immediately. I think we're playing with live grenades right now.
I want it.
Well said. Gil, any parting thoughts?
I want it.
Live long and prosper, have fun, and make some money.
Hook 'em horns.
Thank you all very much. Have a great weekend, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you, Tyler.